Hello everyone, my name is Brianna Stewart. I'm going to show you the cell transport lesson. The standards that were addressed in this lesson were biology standards and language arts standards. They were AKS that follow along with Gwinnett County Public School standards. I was also able to address technology standards for the students that are shown here. The final product of this lesson would have been a poster that included elements of augmented reality and also has a Google quiz as one of those elements. So to start the lesson, we would have done a pre-lab that would have compared how celery behaves with salt water and distilled water to kind of show how water moves in and out of the cell. They would have had to make observations, drawings, draw conclusions about that. The second part of the pre-lab is where they kind of get exposure to dialysis tubing, which they're going to use in the lab to mimic a cell membrane, where we put iodine in the bag, and they were able to make predictions about what they thought was going to happen based off the celery, and able to see how the color change of the water as the iodine moved out of the bag or inside of the bag, whichever they thought was going to happen. So then they were actually asked to the actual lab part, they were asked to create an experimental design, which is abnormal for them because they're usually asked to give the step-by-step instructions, but this was one that they had to create. So they were told they were given three known solutions and one unknown solution, and then they had to create an experimental design to determine the unknown solution. So based off what they just learned from the two pre-lab activities, they had to create a experimental design, draw it out, do the experiment where they had to weigh the bags at the end after a certain amount of time, determine the weight, and then figure out. So gather data and then figure out what the unknown solution was. So they had to answer a couple questions and make some conclusions. So after this would have been maybe the following day, they would have been introduced, giving more instructions on what to do with their poster. So we use eClass. So this is a online platform that we use in Gwinnett County. And I created a couple of how-tos on how to create a Google quiz, which they're going to embed in their augmented reality, how to use a Padlet, which is where they're going to gather all their research, and then how to use HP Reveal, which is the actual format of which they create their augmented reality. So this would have been what kind of one of my little sample tutorials looked like. I showed them what a Padlet could look like. We use Padlet a lot in class, so they're very familiar with it, but maybe not necessarily creating their own. I showed them the one where they can move them around. I showed them that they could, not only just type the information that they gather, but do audio, do pictures, do videos, drawings, lots of different options. They also would have created their Google quizzes, which only had to be 5 questions that had to do with the content. So once they gathered all their data, placed it in the Padlet, then they were able to go to HP Reveal, create an account, and then I used the sample graph, and I showed them what it would look like for them if they did it. So I will show you what that looks like.
I noticed that on my graph, over time, the plant height got higher and higher.
So this would have been just a way for me to show them that they could create their own videos or they could use someone else's videos. One thing that maybe I would have changed is maybe taking a little bit more time to explain each one of these tools, because there was a lot of troubleshooting issues with getting them to create their augmented reality and their triggers and their overlays. So I was able to show them what was expected of them in their poster, and then also, again, I showed them the sample poster. So after all the posters were created, all the augmented reality was added, they were then asked to do a gallery walk. So basically look at all their peers' posters and make observations and grade them using this rubric. This would have been the same rubric that the teacher would use, and they were also asked to give constructive feedback. I really enjoyed doing this lesson. Like I said, I would have maybe taken a couple of days to teach them a little bit more about the tools, specifically the HP Reveal, because that kind of caused a little bit of a headache. But other than that, great lesson. I hope you enjoyed learning about it.